Happy Friday. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you.
Pleasure being here. Pleasure being here.
24/7 Realty Podcast. Today is an exciting day because we get to talk about leads and
exciting stuff.
Exciting.
All right, Where to get them?
All right. So let's do a quick intro here. I'm Claudia Zaker. I've been in the business for 17 years. I think this is my second podcast that we're doing. So I introduced myself on the first one. And I will be kind of moderating, making sure we stay on track because these three high energy individuals here.
Handsome.
I got to keep the parameters of so we don't go off talking about the Raiders or anything.
I'm as chill as a cucumber. What are you talking about?
And to my left, Marc, Laszcz, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I've been in the business now going on my 5th year. Been an agent for the last 3. Joined Claudia's team as their executive assistant, which is a position that I should not have been given because I totally just made stuff up to get the job, and it worked.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
You were there in the right time. But what do you do now?
Now I sell homes for a living, get people into future generational wealth, building it one home at a time. And
you're very good at that.
Working on it.
Yes, he is.
The pioneer of this lead program.
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate to be the guinea pig to test this thing out, see if it worked, and it's worked out.
Nice.
Awesome.
Let's go over to Christian. Christian, introduce yourself.
Christian Romero. I think I've been changing lives. I say lives for about 18 years. I was in the fitness industry for about 17. I've been a loan officer for about 3 months. So I worked with Charles LaFleur. He kind of brought me over from overseas. Worked in Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia.
Charles, I don't know who that is.
And who is this Charles you speak of?
He's a character. But no, it's been a great journey working with these great gentlemen. So just looking forward to doing big things here.
Nice. And he was referring to, as all we know him as Chuck LaFleur, who was on our first podcast. But Charles.
Fred.
Charles.
Don't
tell
start
me.
calling Frederick, even better. I'm back. Frederick.
Oh, he'll probably kill me, but Charles.
Well, it's done
Frederick.
now. Cat's out of the bag now, homie.
Yeah. But it's been good.
Wonderful. Yeah. And in front of me is Kevin M. Kevin, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Kevin M. Been blessed to be in the business now for 7 years. Been in business with you guys since 2017. Geez, times fly. Just got recently started with the Zillow Lead program. Super excited about it. I know that we'll talk a little bit more about it, but I am a business owner within 24/7 Realty, now a team leader, formerly and still currently a mentor and productivity coach. So wear a lot of hats within the 4 walls of this building and super blessed to do so.
Awesome. Nice. Well, welcome. I'm excited to get started. So, we went through this name change because of different opportunities that we saw that with this new partnership and merger that we were able to offer to the agents. And the exciting thing about being partnered with West Coast Funding was that they had a huge lead source program that they offered to the agents that work with them. So that's how we kind of first introduced and what excited us and brought us to the table to be closely tied with them. And we're excited. We first, when we were starting to think about this program, they were having a lot of success at their North County branch with agents there. We said, let's put somebody that we trust that can tell us how it is and who's going to work these leads. And that's how we used Marc as a guinea pig to test this. And I think you started, Marc, really with the program when you returned
July 2021.
July 2021.
Yeah. Started with that, and honestly, after the 4th day on the program, I opened my first escrow with it. Like, it was very quick. I show him the house. I answered the phone, had no idea what to do, what to say. Then 24/7, they're like, hey, just give them what they want. Go show them the house. Go do your thing. And next thing you know, it's like, hey, do you like the house? Yeah. You want to write an offer? Yeah. Cool. got them pre-approved with Chuck, and next thing you know, we got our offer accepted and opened escrow on day 5 of being part of the lead program. Like it was, I didn't believe that it was
Instant.
real. Yeah. I remember I called Chuck. I'm like, am I being punked right now? Like I've been in business for already 3 years at that time. And usually I have to show like 10, 20, 30 houses to people, write 10 offers, get rejected, almost think about quitting the business because it's like, I suck at my job. I can't get a deal closed or even a deal to the table. And here I am 4 days into the thing and I already got the first escrow open. I'm like, what just happened?
It's a really interesting dynamic when they're the ones scheduling the showing essentially, rather than coming to us, meeting, finding their criteria, us scheduling showings, sending them houses.
It was a
Flipped upside
totally
down.
different thing. Like I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And then, more leads started coming in and I'm like, all right, that first one was easy. Let's go see how many other ones we can do. And then after, 6 months of being, or the first 6 months of being on the program, I think the team and I, we opened like almost 20 escrows and closed 13 of them. 7 of them, didn't end up making to the finish line, cancellations, buyers backing out. It's going to happen in this business. But still, to be able to close 13 in 6 months, I mean, I don't even think I did 13 in my first 2 years of real estate, like let alone doing all that in 6 months. So definitely made me a better agent because I got exposed to so many different types of people, a part of so many different kinds of transactions, to where now I feel like I just have 7 years of experience that I got in a 6-month crash course. And it's definitely, I can feel it just in my conversations with people.
Christian, I wish you were wearing the headphones because you're missing all the sound effects that are pretty cool. Yes.
All right.
I think it's well worth putting them on.
And now I'm feeling the pressure, guys.
They have all the applause. Woo!
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Pat myself on the back.
Good job.
You look very cool.
Thank you.
Well, yeah, that's actually a different way of, because I think as realtors, I mean, Kevin and I, since we've been in the business a little longer, it's going out for the hunt, right? It's doing open houses, door knocking, spending money on direct mail, cold calling. And by cold calling, it's being handed a list of just people who have phone numbers and exist out in the world. And
But that's where the magic starts.
right? That is where the magic starts.
Right.
But through this lead program, it's a bit different because they're calling you. They're searching, they're on there making inquiries saying, I want to be connected to an agent. I want to see this property. And that's what's pretty unique. So I think the scripts it was a little bit of a mind shift, I think, for us, right? Because normally we're taught to pre-qual, ask them a bunch of questions just to see if it's worth our time,
Right.
and then go and meet the client. And with this, the whole purpose of this is what? To
Get in front of them.
just get in front of them.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes to just get the appointment, set the appointment. So, Kevin, talk to us a little bit about what was the change in what you had to learn in making these calls and those scripts, and how did those conversations go?
Yeah, you covered some of it because I come from a very, I guess, traditional style of selling where I was taught in this business that you had to learn how to fish, and it was a lot of traditional lead generation, a lot of the levers that you talked about. And I think at the end of the day, on the surface, it's about creating and maintaining relationships. It's about getting to know people, finding out what they're looking for and catering to those needs. But the process is much different in that before, as you mentioned, we would meet somebody at an open house, we would call a list, and we would get in front of somebody in an office space where we'd spend 45 minutes discovering what it was they were looking for, talking to them about the home buying process and answering any questions they have. And now it's, hey, you're calling me about 123 Main Street. I'll meet you there at 2:00. And while we're there, I have 15 minutes to find out what would have taken 45 minutes in a more formal setting. And now I'm just off the cuff needing to find out that information much faster and also create a relationship in just a short matter of time, because most of these people, although great people, are not invested in one agent, and they're willing to work with whomever it is that's going to give them the best opportunity to get the house. And that may or may not be us, and we can't take that personally because it's not a skill thing. It's not a personal thing. It's just an accessibility thing.
Yep. Well said. Christian, I know you're on the loan side.
Yes.
So the way the lead program works is a lead comes in, it goes into your platform or you answer it, however, when you're connected with the lead, it goes straight into our follow-up boss, which is our CRM, and how
Correct.
we're keeping track of the database and following up. At that point, it also gets round robin assigned to a lender. And I know you've been working with Flex for a while. How is it like on your end as far as when a lead comes in? How do you get notified? And then what are the steps that you do?
Well, when I first got here, Chuck gave me a whole bunch of names and numbers because that's where we come from in the fitness industry. We have to call people. So for me, it was really natural. You know, calling people. That's what I want to do. And I think what made it a lot more easier is maybe it's the generation. I like to talk to people, and when I would contact these people, I received a message. Or, I would say, did anybody contact you? Or did you go see that 123 Smith Street? Did you have an opportunity? No, I didn't. Let one of the agents send you updated listings. That was an easy conversation. Then I would go into, well, did you get your complimentary pre-approval? And they'd be like, what is that? I said, don't worry about it. I'd go into their email, send it out to them, and do a brief pre-qual. So for me, just getting the opportunity is the key, because having this flex program is huge. It's like in the gym industry, it's like TIs, telephone inquiries, people wanting to, and that's all they're doing. And by us having that information of the house they were interested in, that's how you spark up the conversation, because they're looking for that. And I think the other person is just finding out how we can add value to them. Because once we got that, we have their trust. So for me, it's been fantastic. We closed a deal with Marc and Brooks off an old lead. I think it was from March. We have another one looking for houses right now. So, and I've got like 4 pre-approvals off that. So just working with the correct partners and just making sure we have that same relentlessness and tenacity. It just makes the job a lot easier for me. So
yeah, and you've been great with scripts and calling those old leads. And what we mean by old leads is people that maybe at one time called or one time inquired, and they just weren't interested at the time or didn't pick up their phone. And we still have their contact information, and then we're just revisiting that list again. So we have some of our agents who are perhaps newer or don't have current business right now that show up to the boiler room.
Correct.
That's what we call it, and they just call off that list. So I know you've had a lot of luck with that.
And it's great because you have the agents in the boiler room, and lots of the time, I would say 90% of the time, they're like, the person's asking questions regarding the loan side. So we're there, we're all working with each other, just making it that much successful. So it's great.
So tell me, and I'm going to come right back to you because I want to know more specifically on the live calls, like when at the point that you get added onto the live calls versus calling, an old list, but just specifically on the live calls. But Marc, I know you have experiences in working with a lot of lenders on the West Coast funding side. So at what point is it helpful to have that lender, and how do you guys work together to get that appointment or to work on converting that lead into someone who's, ready to go?
Sure. So the lenders, they do a great job of right away, as soon as the lead comes into their inbox, they fire off a text that says, hey, this is, such and such from West Coast Funding. We are here, to help get you, your qualification when you're ready to purchase your home. That's great. Some lenders do the call. And typically what I personally like to do is whenever I get that live call, I don't question, are you pre-approved? Are you, or anything. I don't ask any questions. My job is to say, hey, do you want to go see this on Tuesday at 2:00? Cool. I'll meet you there. And then I meet with them in person. And then that's when I start doing the building the rapport, do a little bit of background info. Where do you work? How long have you been working there? Do you know what kind of loan program, if you were to buy this home? First, and do you like this home? Yes or no? And if they say no, then I don't want to push for the pre-approval, because then if they told me no, and then I told them still to get pre-approved, they're going to feel like I'm just trying to sell them and close them on the spot. I don't want to scare them away. My job is to help build a connection. It's like, perfect. You don't like this one? Actually, well, there's another one 2 streets over right now that you might be interested in. You got 10 more minutes to go take a look at it, and we'll just cruise over, take a look at the house. And then at that point, gives me another 15, 20 minutes to keep building that relationship with them and say, and then find out where they're at in their home buying process. Like, I don't want to go for the close at the very first meeting. Probably won't get those. And not every single one of the buyers that you meet is going to be a 20% conventional approved, hey, I want to buy this house today. No.
Here's my credit card.
Have I got one? Absolutely. And honestly,
Lay
it
down.
was the best feeling ever. But most of them, you got to work, you got to talk to them. And some of these people, they may not even qualify. Some people that come say this house, they don't even have $500 in their bank account for a home inspection, let alone an appraisal. And how are they going to be able to put, $10, $20, $30,000 down to buy a home? But once I build that confidence and that trust between myself, then I bring in the lending partner. I can say, hey, we're going to do the home shopping, but right now we got to get you to talking with the mortgage professional to make sure that this is the right thing for you. Buying isn't for everybody, and you don't want to buy something just to buy it. Like, you want to make sure that this is an investment and not an expense for you.
Looks like you got it down.
And even if you don't buy there, we're kind of educating the consumer on the process. So
Right.
if they're not qualified, once it gets to our side, we walk them through. Well, let's come up with a strategy. Let's go through your own process. O for outcome, W for why, and N for new action plans. So that at least if we can't get them there, like Marc said, can't close everybody, but at least we sit down with them. This is where you're at. This is what we need. What we need to do to get where you want to be. So it might be a 3-month, 6-month process, but at least they feel that we're all working together. So
Right. Kevin, what's been your experience with how you perhaps maybe work with the lending side? Like what process do you bring them in? Where have you seen? Because I know we can all communicate in that platform, and we like to use but kind of the lending side, the lending partner, like almost like an ISA to help us keep communicating with the client, right? Someone else that's helping you. So what's been your experience with that?
I am a personal fan of Follow Up Boss, which is a management system that we use, our CRM, because it allows, like you said, for us to communicate with them directly. And I was taught in this business that the fortune's in the follow-up. And so I've always been an advocate of putting as many notes as possible and being very detailed. And so I think it's really cool that they can see that, but then they can add to that. As far as when I refer, I think as Marc was saying, you're dealing with so many different personalities and so many different people that there is no one size fits all solution for that. And so I've had a bit of a challenge pulling myself away from getting people pre-qualified and taking the right measures up front. And so my approach has been to go out and show them the home as I've been taught. And as soon as we've gotten to a position where we've talked about monthly payment, then I'll always formulate a way to move the conversation to this is naturally the next step. And typically I'm not talking to them about purchase price or offer price. We're usually talking about monthly payment because at the end of the day, that's what they're going to be responsible for every single month. And that's typically a motivating factor for them to get down and meet with a lender to get the information. It's a little bit harder, as Marc was saying, when you're just pushing for them to get pre-approved, rather having a conversation about what they're comfortable with monthly.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And like Christian mentioned, I like what you said about taking them to what's their goals, what do they got to do to get to the next step. I think that's an easier conversation to have than just, hey, let's find out what you're approved for.
Yeah, usually I've done this for the last decade. I call it the own process. O for outcome. What's your outcome? Okay. W, what your why is going to push you. When your why is big enough, the how is easy. And then new action plan. So kind of formulate that on a daily basis. I kind of formulate that with my clients. So it's important because I'm thinking about, obviously we're in this industry to help people, and this is what I love about this industry. So we're all on the same page, but it's very important that we have the client know what they want, because sometimes they just need that little direction. I coming from sales background, I don't think I'm pushy. I'm just, people call it, they might call it pushy. I'm just very passionate. I'm very passionate about what I do. If I can help somebody change their lives by guiding them to a realtor that can get them into a home, I feel good about that. There's nothing negative about that. Now, some people don't qualify. So, we have to go through their own process and make sure they understand what they need to do to increase their credit score, or financially where they need to be to purchase a home. So,
Somebody's phone alarm is buzzing.
Yeah, somebody's.
That's not
What was one of the more interesting experiences that you've had, Marc? Good, bad, indifferent, and I'll share one of mine.
For me, it was the next door neighbor wanted to get into the house because they thought that the seller stole something from them.
Oh,
They're like, hey, I want to check out this house. And they go straight into the garage. They're like, nope, it's not here. I'm like, what's going on? Like, you're interested in this house? He goes, no, I just thought Steve stole my shovel and never gave it back. Oh my gosh. And I'm just like, okay, so do you have any interest in buying or selling? They're like, no, I just needed to get into the house. And I'm just like, whoa, okay. Here we go.
that is incredible. Let me go on to Zillow to go get my neighbor's shovel, my shovel from my neighbor's place.
Exactly. That was probably my most interesting live call that I had because, again, my strategy is don't ask any questions, don't do any probing over the phone, don't sell, which, it can come back and bite you in the butt. It's like, hey, why do you want to come in to see this house? Oh, I want to see if they took something from me. Well, I'm not going to show you the house like at that point. So learn, but you're going to have those oddball situations every now and then. Sometimes people, they just want to come in just to see the house for whatever reason. They have no intentions of buying, even though they can't afford it. They still want to go in and see it. And there are some of those people who are just habitual dreamers, and it's okay. You're going to meet them, but just don't waste your time with them and find out who those people are and qualify them before, they drain your entire schedule.
Yeah.
So that's, you described something that was like the worst. What has been the best call that you've received and that you actually met the client out there?
So the best one that happened, all right, it was this lady, she called in, her realtor was out of town. He's like, I just want to see this house. And she said, I'm flying down tomorrow from San Francisco. And I'm just like, all right, this is a fake one. Cool, whatever. I'll book the appointment. Lo and behold, she shows up and she was an all cash buyer, $900,000. We put the offer in. Offer gets accepted. 14-day close, all cash. I'm on top of the world. 2 days before closing, the husband passes away.
This was supposed to be your best one.
It was. It was the best one.
For a moment.
No, I mean it was because it showed that there are those people who are on Zillow, and it gave me, the mindset to not give up and to take any lead because you never know who's going to be on the other side. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're going to get those people, who aren't qualified, but then you're going to get those $900,000 all cash buyers. Like,
yeah.
The goal is just say yes and good things will happen. Mm-hmm. Will bad things happen? Yeah, absolutely. It's life, but hopefully you get enough yeses to outweigh all the no's.
Yeah. So I had a client who she called in. It was a live call. She began interrogating me about my experience and what team dynamic I had and what my availability was. And so I'm firing off answers as she's asking these questions. And she begins to tell me that she has bought and sold many properties in the past. And she wasn't willing to work with the agent who she had been working with over the last 15 or 16 years. Why she didn't get into the specifics, and I never asked. And that ultimately led to her being interested in a $1.2 million duplex or triplex. And I ended up scheduling a listing appointment at her $900,000 single family home. Nice. Here in Sunbow. So
nice.
It started as something that was really interesting and to a lot of people and maybe new agents, very intimidating. Mm-hmm. And that led to somebody who I know isn't going to go shop around other agents because, well, they've decided on one, and a $900,000 listing and a $1.25 million purchase.
Wow.
So that's
a good story. That's nice.
It's crazy.
How about the worst?
The worst. I wouldn't say there has been a bad experience yet. Like definitely no shovels and neighbors.
And you've been at this for 3 weeks or so?
About, yes, okay. About. And so there was this one individual who calls in, and I do my best not to judge personalities or people. And so we go out to go see this new development that was listed at 1.7, I want to say. And we arrive, we go through the home tour. They're a younger couple, probably younger than I. And so we're going through, they like the home. We begin to sit down with the sales rep at their sales office within the model home. And they ask questions regarding financing, which I never got into because I was just going to go out and show the home. And through that process was going to go into my discovery phase. And so they didn't really have any information regarding conventional, FHA, VA. They didn't really know the difference. They didn't know down payment requirements. They didn't know what closing costs were. And they certainly didn't know what their monthly payment was. She said that she was comfortable around $4,000 a month, which doesn't mean it's a decent budget, but it doesn't translate to 1.7 million.
Depends on how much you're putting down.
Depends on how much you're putting down. That's correct. Forgive me. Which then segues me into when we talked about the down payment, the sales rep asked, how much do you have? And she said 20, and she said 20%. No, I have 20,000. She's like, oh, well, you're going to need quite a bit more. And so the sales rep's looking at me because I'm their representation. And I'm like, well, here we are. And so I would say the awkward walk out of the home. And then that was probably the worst part, was just that engagement with the sales rep. But then from there, we connected them with the lender so that way they can, I guess, find a home that met those needs, because they did have assets and they did have a good budget. It just wasn't 1.7.
Yeah. Everybody's looking at all these, videos on TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and like their perception of what real estate is and how to purchase a home is sometimes it's misguided, right? Because they're watching something, the numbers, they make sense in Florida or, in Indianapolis, but that may not be the case necessarily in our market here in San Diego. And, I have working with somebody, they're from Alabama, she's like, Marc, like for $700,000, like I can get a 9,000 square foot home on 15 acres. Like, and I showed her a house on Imperial Beach that was less than 1,000 square feet. And she's like, honestly, like, I don't know if buying is the right thing for me. And I'm like, good. You're realizing this now rather than buying something and forcing yourself because, you want to keep up with the Joneses. Like, I think there was NAR put out a stat that less than 28% of people in San Diego financially qualify for a home. So, I mean, do 20% of 3.5 million people. Like, that's a lot of people. Not enough inventory. So you're going to be, you're going to pay more than you want to pay for something, or you're going to be stuck with something that you don't want just because it's what you can afford.
Right.
It's interesting because it's their perspective of what home they're purchasing lies in the structure. And we all know the value is not actually in the structure. It's where the structure is positioned.
Right. The land.
Yeah.
So what has been your experience because we have nurture leads, and then we have, I know Christian talked a little bit about the pond list or the boiler list, older leads, but then we have the nurture leads who are new, who are inquiries that perhaps didn't get transferred over, or they called after hours, things of that sort. From your experience in dealing with multiple nurture leads and live calls, what do you prefer, and do you see a difference in them?
Well, nurture leads are just as good as live calls. Why? Because it's somebody who inquired on Zillow, but they just happened to inquire after hours when there was nobody there to do the live connection. I mean, we had 2 closings based off of nurture leads, which help for your conversion ratio and don't count against you when you don't close a nurture lead. Now, I would call all the nurture leads because those are people who are motivated to buy. I'll tell you, they are a little bit harder to get a hold of, right? Because they called in after hours. Like if you call after 8 p.m. on Zillow, chances are that's when they're going to be available. Not everybody wants to make calls after 8 p.m., but that's so be it. Like if that's when they inquire, then that's when I'm going to call them and just go for it.
So you've had success with the nurture leads.
Absolutely. Nurture leads. Those pond leads were live calls at one point.
Right.
The database of 30,000 people that's just sitting there and floating, it's just going to take some work and going to dig, but I'd rather call a list of 500 Zillow pond leads than get a list of 500 names from my title rep that, maybe I will have 2 to 3 connections when I call through that list. Numbers may not be good. Numbers may not be verified. Like I pounded my head the 3 months prior to getting onto Flex program. That's all I was calling. And I would pray to get 8 contacts over a 6-hour period. That's nothing. With these Flex leads, I made 8 contacts in 1 hour and almost 3 to 4 hours of talk time when I was all said and done after that time. Like it's all about where you put your time and your energy into. Like conversations are just way better than, voicemails. Mm-hmm.
Christian, tell us what what is, as far as your strength or the West Coast Funding loan officer's strength in regards to how you help the agent convert the lead or help them come to the table? Like, what is something that you guys do?
Well, something that I've been doing is obviously calling the old leads, getting that contact, connecting with the latest agent that was on there. If they weren't on there, if they're not on there anymore, I come next door, and tell them the situation. But I think I think we just got to realize that we're just so fortunate having this program, because for me, it's all about opportunity. How many people we just get in contact, shake hands, kiss babies. That's what we call it. So
Shake hands, kiss babies.
shake hands, kiss babies.
Not to be confused with shaking babies and kissing hands.
That's right. That's right. Let's not get that confused. No.
Not to get that confused.
No, but
We have no sound effect for that.
Womp, womp, womp. All set.
But no, it's just being able to have that opportunity. So anybody that's new like myself, man, I just feel so privileged having the opportunity to call as many people as I can. And like Marc said, hey, and I think not too many, there's not too many companies that have this type of program. Right. So, for me coming in here, feeling comfortable on the phone, I just feel so fortunate. I've gotten deals off that. I've gotten to build relationships. And like I said, using the system, making sure that there's that clear communication. So, whoever the agent on the other side knows what I'm doing, I'm following up on him. Or, I'm using them as, can you kind of follow up on them to push the application
Working
process.
as a team.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I just feel so fortunate and so grateful because I've had the opportunity to get some loans processed through that program. So, I've got nothing but positive things to say about it. So, yeah.
So what is it that you guys, because I'm always puzzled as a leader and running the company and having conversations with agents, it always puzzles me. And I'd like to get input from Kevin as, from your coaching mentorship side, and then also from Marc as a hungry, successful young agent. We have over 100 agents currently here in this branch, and there's only about maybe 20 of them who have shown up to call these leads that are saying, call me, I want to buy a home, I'm a client, and that we have so many on that list and so much opportunity. Why do you think that is? Why isn't 100 agents? Why aren't 100 agents? They have the opportunity to show up and to call and to get business. What is your take on that, Kevin? Why only is such a small percentage show up and actually do that?
I think they're intimidated. Most people don't like to make phone calls. Christian, obviously, you're one of the anomalies, and you inspire a lot of us to do so. When I started in the business, I didn't like making phone calls. I started actually as an ISA, so I did inside sales, inbound phone calls, and when we weren't getting inbound phone calls, I had to do outbound phone calls. And that was really uncomfortable for me for 6 months. And then after 6 months of doing 200 up to 500 calls a day on a triple line dialer, you get used to it. You become numb to the rejection, and you seek those wins, and you know that they're it's essentially a needle in a haystack when you're calling outbound phone calls of neighbors who have no motivation. What Christian was saying and what Marc touched on is there's a lot more opportunity with these leads. And so I think that it's an intimidation thing for the newer agents. It's a confidence thing. And although there is opportunity, I think they have doubts in their talent and ability to convert them. And that fear can paralyze us.
Somebody simplified it for me. Until your desire to succeed outweighs your fear of failure, like you're going to continue to sit on the sidelines and just watch everybody else succeed. It's just not going to happen for you by accident. And you said 20% of our agents are there. It's the same thing like the 80-20 rule. Yep. So correct. Those 20% are there, 80% are going to fail. First thing that they told us when we got our real estate license, you're about to join a career field where it has an 80% failure rate within the first 5 years. And the metrics, they continue to roll over. So I told myself 2 years ago, like, honestly, I was terrified of making phone calls for my first 2 years of real estate. I was closing deals, but I just felt like I was lucking myself into them, you know, just right place at the right time. But then I said, no, you didn't get lucky. You put yourself in those positions to be able to close those deals. Nobody just called you and said, hey, I want to buy or sell this house. It's like you put yourself out into the world and they ended up finding you. Well, if you're going to be sitting behind your phone, just, you know, watching Netflix, TikTok, and not, you know, putting yourself, like, guess what? You're not going to do anything. And your license is going to expire.
And the cool thing about it is that they'll, within our company, they'll always have that opportunity, and they'll get to a point where they'll either drop out of the business or they'll decide that today's the day. And when they decide that today's the day, it doesn't get any easier. And day 5, day 10, week 10, it doesn't get any easier. And by planting those seeds, they'll see over the course of time that they're going to sprout. I mean, how many people do we have in our databases that we may follow up with and we may send direct mail to, but we may not communicate with as often as we need to, that end up calling us a year later and say, hey, I'm ready to buy. I hope you remember me. And we always remember everybody in our databases, don't we? And so when these agents do begin to have that experience and seek out the wins through all the rejection, it's going to be a really good long-term play, not just for the first transaction, but the relationship that you'll maintain over the course of that person's life, who they'll refer, and the multiple deals that you'll get just from that one relationship.
Very wise, very wise. Thank you. As we wrap this up, anything else that you guys like to add to this? What you hope maybe in the future this LEAD program will lead to, maybe your goals, just anything that you want to say before we wrap up?
The goal is to use this LEAD program so I don't need this LEAD program anymore.
I like
Using this as a vehicle in my career, and eventually I'll get a different one.
Love that.
Yeah, ultimately helping as many people out as possible, maintaining those relationships so that way we don't have to make outbound phone calls. We can get to a position where we just stay in contact and stay in relationship with people. And eventually they're going to need to sell that house or buy another one. Like I said, they're going to refer friends and family. And so creating a pipeline big enough to where we never have to make outbound phone calls again.
Nice. I like that. I always say to people, this LEAD program is a supplement to what you should be doing, right? Everybody should be doing the door knocking and doing the open houses and all the other activities that we do as agents. This should be a supplement too. So if you're closing 6 transactions right now, let's get you to 16. If you're closing 10, let's get you to 20. Right. Christian, anything before we wrap up?
I think, just leading from the front is the more that we're successful at this program, people are just going to buy in. I mean, there's a lot of things I think before I came, I don't know before, but from what I've seen, a lot of people weren't making calls. And now it's hard to do something if you don't put yourself in an uncomfortable situation.
That's how you grow.
You have to make your weakness into your strength. And I think just to touch base on what Kevin said is people are maybe tentative. They're tentative because they're just afraid. So we got to put them in a situation, get that scarcity out, and that's how they'll grow. So.
Love it. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for joining.
Thank you for inviting us on.
I'm sure we'll be having more conversations into the future.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right.